Well, g'day and welcome back to the shed. And today I'm going to have another look at that Genalex Radiogram that I gave up on a couple of months ago. If you saw the video, you'd realise that I came to a bit of a dead end with the pickup cartridge. Now, this is a radiogram I restored some years ago. It was one of the first jobs I did, and I thought it was going to be a straightforward job of recommissioning it. I'd just fix it up a bit, give it a grease and oil change, and off she'd go, but it didn't end up like that. I did fit Bluetooth to it, that worked well, but while it had been in storage in the shed here over the last few years, the phono cartridge had deteriorated. Now, it's an old pickup, old steel needle type crystal cartridge, and that's the original one that was in it. I'll just give you a closer look at that. And yes, you change the steel needles in it every few records. This one was dead when I got it, and I found this replacement one, supposedly new old stock, and it worked well when I first put it in, but yeah, over the time it had been in storage, that one had deteriorated as well. So I started experimenting with, well, I had this Ronette cartridge lying around, and I tried everything to try and get it working with that. It wasn't successful. I tried running it through a cobbled together preamp using one of Manuel's Bluetooth boards, or the op amp section of that. That really wasn't successful, mainly due to impedance matching issues. I'm convinced that this Ronette cartridge has had the gong anyway. Its output really isn't anywhere near what you would expect even from a ceramic cartridge, let alone a crystal one, and I need a pretty high output. So I went reading forums, as you do when you're desperate, and I found someone who has been rebuilding those ones using the piezo elements from crystal microphone inserts. So I ordered some on eBay. There they are. I've got a whole bunch of them. And apparently you can cut them up, fit them inside the cartridge, and it works. So I'm going to have a go at that, because I'd really like to have this working the way it was originally intended, using the original pickup cartridge. This radiogram will only ever play 78s. The turntable is not suitable for vinyl records at all. So I'd prefer to have it working as it was intended. So I'm going to have a go at this. Might work, it might not. We'll see how we go. So this is the original cartridge out of it, and as you can see, you just undo this and remove the needle. Goes in there. This is the one that was in the radiogram when I first got it, and it's an ACOS. Now, the one I replaced it with was this one, also ACOS, different model number, I think, GP136, and I can't quite read what that is, but it's somewhat different. This one's got an alloy body, this one's aluminium, pressed metal. But looking inside it, it is, if I can get it open, that's the crystal element in it. It has had it. So I'm going to try rebuilding this one first, because it's easier to open and work with, I think. The rubber parts in this are still soft, so I'm hoping that I can mount the new element in there, and we'll see how it goes. Well, I guess the first thing to do is to remove this old crystal cartridge, or crystal element. It really is cooked, just crumbles, and yeah, this rubber thing is what I'll have to insert the new element into. I'll just try and remove the end of this. It'll give me the dimensions I need for the bit that sticks into the rubber. I'll just press that out. Easier said than done. I think it's actually glued in. I did come across a video of someone doing this as well. I'll put the link up in the description, perhaps show you a bit of it.
Which comes out of this Philco record player. It's the model L-28 9-41, and I think the 9-41 is September 1941. This is the element I'm going to use. It's a little bigger, so you see where my pencil marks are. I need to cut it. I've got different sizes I just purchased over at on eBay. All came from China, and they were really inexpensive. So you can purchase those either from China or from anywhere that anybody sells them. This one is 35 millimeter, which is 1.3 inches, I think they said. But again, it can be cut. It doesn't hurt anything. And what you do after you cut it, you test it, make sure it still works.
Okay, as
like
you can see, I've just cut this thing in pieces. Cut the sides, cut the front, so it would fit in here. And it does fit. And I've got it hooked up to a radio. You can hear it as it moves. So it's still alive. Okay. It's still working. Okay, so here it is. I know this record's pretty dirty. It looks pretty dirty in this movie here. Anyway, this is the amplifier I'm using. We're about, not quite halfway. We're about, I don't know, if it'll focus in here. See, let's just put it on 4. And here's my finished product. And I'm touching the wires. That's not good. Let's see if I can do this without. This is not easy with one hand.
So that's what I'm trying to replicate. The channel is called Jack of All Trades, and I'll put a link in the description. Okay, so I'll start by measuring this broken off piece of the original crystal element, and the width is, yeah, that's about it, 6.5 millimeters wide. So write that down, 6.5 wide, and the thickness, because it has to go into that slot, this is about 1.62 thick, 1.61 at the end. Okay, so, and I imagine it would have to be a pretty snug fit in there, otherwise it wouldn't transmit the sound very well. 1.6, I'll say 2 thick. Now this is how it will be assembled, with these rubber sections in here and this, it's sticking to my fingers, this centered on here. So we're looking at overall, that's 25 millimeters from there to there, a little bit more, give or take though, 25 millimeters. Now it doesn't really matter if it protrudes out the other side of this grommet a little bit, or this little block. In fact, it would probably be better if it does. Now inside this red rubber here there is a step. The part where the needle fits in is more, or is narrower than where the crystal sits in it, and the step is, I guess, about halfway along, but I'll just see if I can get some idea of where it is. So that will be about there, and that's 3 millimeters. The whole thing is 6 millimeters, so it's halfway. So 25 millimeters along it, plus 3 millimeters into this rubber. So 28 millimeters long, and I don't think it matters very much if it protrudes a little bit into this side. So I'll work on 30 long, and at least initially. So this is the element I'm going to use. Now the other thing is the width. This is about 15 wide, I think. Yeah, 15 give or take. So obviously it can't be wider than 15. Maybe a mil clearance on either side. I don't want it to touch the sides, obviously. This is a 35mm disc. Now 13, 15, say 13, I will obviously have to cut through the piezo element on this thing. So having seen it done, I'm prepared to more or less believe that you can. But if that doesn't work, the other option is to use one of these smaller discs, which I can fit the entire piezo element in there. I'll have to extend it a little bit, but that will be alright. But first I'm going to try with this one and see if I can get a result by cutting this to a 13mm wide strip, tapering down to 6.5 at the ends. I'll obviously have to accommodate these contacts here as well. I'll cut this to a strip first and then we'll play with it. First of all, I want to find out if this works and to what extent it works. So what I might do is just plug it into, or attach the scope to it, and just see what sort of output we're getting from it, if any. Okay, so I've tacked a couple of little leads to the end of this just to make it easy. I'll hook the scope up to it. That's not working very well, is it? Oh yeah, that's okay. It doesn't really matter if I've got red and black transposed. Well, actually it might. The black goes to the base, which will pick up more noise. Now, I've got this set to 1 volt per division, so I don't expect a lot from it, but we'll just see. So we're definitely getting some output from it when I scrape it. So at least we know it's doing something. So just marking it at 13mm wide, and I'm hoping that this doesn't damage it. Taking a large pair of scissors, and they're not great scissors, but they'll be even worse after cutting brass, I would imagine. We'll just carefully cut along the line. Alright, before I do anything else, let's check it on the scope again and see if it works. Okay, so yep, scraping it, we're getting obvious output from it, so cutting through it hasn't completely destroyed it. That's it cut to size, and I've marked 6.5mm across here. I'm not at all sure about cutting this, but we'll try it. Scissors again, I suppose. And I'll cut down to the end of the piezo element. And then trim along the edge here. Come off, thank you. Okay. And that should now fit in there. I need to shorten that to about what was it, 3mm, I think. just there. Right. And I'll do the same with this end, I suppose. I'll have to do something about these connections here. So 6.5 will be there and there. The video I watched advocated using a piece cut from a CD case, and I checked that, but the CD case plastic is 1mm thick, so that's not going to work for these measurements. That would give us a thickness of 2 millimeters plus the thickness of this, which is about 0.1, the brass. So we want 1.62-ish. So what I've found is I had this acrylic sheet and I've cut a little piece off it. I bought this for using on dials, and it's about 0.8, I think. 0.8. So if I use a piece of it either side on here as packing, and one piece on this side of this one, that should give us a reasonable result, I think. Okay, and I need 3 pieces of this, 2 about 3 millimeters long and 1 about 4, maybe 5, I'll check that. Where did that go? Oh, I've lost it. No, it's got to be here on the bench somewhere. Okay, I'll just clean this with a bit of isopropyl. And I've decided to use super glue. My first preference was going to be araldite, but I don't have any 5-minute araldite around. So I'll put some on here, just a drop of it. Pick this up and dip it in and put it on. And just press that down firmly for a few seconds. And I suppose I'll have to clean my forceps now too. It's a damn nuisance. And I'll put a little spring clip on them to hold it in place while it sets. There we go. Maybe wipe off the excess there. And I'll do the same with this end. Alright, I'll leave that there for a few minutes. Well, that's been about half an hour, so I'll just unclip it. And yeah, it does seem to be stuck. And that's, yeah, fairly firm fit. I'll just stretch it a little bit over the end. There we go. And the other end. Alright, so this is the wide bit, so that will go in there. That seems to be alright, perhaps a little bit tight. Now the needle points downwards, so this will go that way up. Now the thing is, this will have a turning motion rather than a back and forth motion, and I don't know how well that'll work. What we need to do now is hook these wires up. That's one. That's two. I'll just tin those. So it's a bit blobby, but it'll do. And this one. Okay. Goes in this way. Needle pointing downwards. And that sits in there okay, without anything touching anything that it shouldn't. Now, this will go over here, like that. An M3 does just fit through here, and I've cut this one down. This is for the main part here. It goes through here, and what I'm going to do is put a piece of heat shrink over it, and then this goes on top, and the wires will go around that. So I guess the first thing I need to shrink up this heat shrink. Okay. I'm just checking that nothing's shorting. I'll just move this wire away a little bit down there. Same with this one. Okay, so this now goes on here. Right, and the nut. Now I don't know if this nut will be too bulky, if it's going to get in the way or not. I hope not. This was of course riveted to start with. I don't have any rivets or anything that size to do it. I might try and find something if this is successful, but there's every chance I'm going to have to pull it apart and start again, so I'm not going to do that at this stage. Now these should, yes they do, go through there. They're pretty big and clunky. Anyway, that might work. I'll take the needle out of this, even though it's probably not great. I've got some new needles inside, but just for proof of concept, I'm just going to put that in there and just rub my thumb over it and see if we get a signal on the scope. Okay, so let's just hook this up to the scope, and we'll see what, if anything, happens. And that one is ground. Bit of a dirty connection there. I think that's better. It's more our dodgy connection that we're seeing there than anything else. We're definitely getting something though. I don't know why this is like that. Perhaps I should have grounded one side of the piezo element. I don't think the original one was. What's that? That's just noise. Alright, so we're getting a signal there, obviously. I guess the thing to do is to hook this up and see if it'll play a record and what sort of output we get from it, whether it's going to be enough. Okay, so I've got the head shell out of the record player, and with any luck the original screws will be in here. Okay, so I think we use the shorter ones for this cartridge and the longer ones go with this cartridge. So I'll put those back, this being thicker of course. Alright, so we fit this in here. Oh, it is a little bit tight. That pushes in okay. I think the nuts on this arm touching something on the other side. I might have to replace them. That's just catching. Alright, well, let's just see what happens, shall we? So, this will go in here like this. And that little... Oh, I'm going to take that needle out before I stick it in my finger. I'll just spike myself with it then. There we go. Now, we need to get these connectors on. Now this turns around like that. And there is a little grub screw that goes in the side, but I'm not going to put it in just yet because I'll probably end up pulling it out. Better put the needle in. Alright, plug this in, warm it up, and I'll find a record. Okay, well it should be warmed up by now. I'll put a record on it. At some risk to copyright strikes, but whatever. And now that is on pickup. Put the volume about halfway, I guess. And we'll see what happens. Oh yeah, it's going. We have some sound, but not much.
Stars shining bright above you, night breezes seem to whisper and
Oops. Well, that's disappointing. That sounds terrible. Very low output and distorted. Well, that was a pretty disappointing result. I'm not sure if I've got something shorted or bad connections, or if it's just that's what I'm going to get out of it. But by way of experiment, I've hooked up a coax lead to the gram input of the radiogram, and I've got it on and turned up bit more than half, about 3/4, and I am getting some signal here. So that's coming through certainly better than the cartridge. So now I'm going to connect up the cartridge. Yellow is positive. Doesn't matter which one's which, I don't think. Right, that's on. Nothing. I can just slightly hear something through there. But nothing like this. So there's something wrong somewhere in here. Let's get it out and have a look. Let's just lift this out. And see if the connections have anything to do with it. Let's put a clip on there. And a clip on there. We've got some sound. I'll turn it up louder, turn it up full. Okay, so that bad connection. Nevertheless, the output isn't great, and I'm doubtful whether it will work like that well enough. But let's just, for the exercise, fix this up. This is not held very well in place. It's too far back. I probably need to move this forward somehow. Not sure how I can do that, but I'll have another look at it. I noticed on the Jack of all trades video that this was solidly connected to the needle armature thing here, whereas this possibly doesn't provide as good a or solid a connection. I don't know. It is a little bit too big though. Okay, I've made a new one up, cut it slightly differently. I haven't trimmed the back off yet. Excuse my fingers, I've just been up on the roof using expanding foam to fill up a hole, and I'm not used to expanding foam, and I think this stuff stuck to my fingers until I grow new skin. It's worse than super glue. Anyway, I decided to leave a little protruding end here which will actually make direct contact with the end of the needle here. Now this has to go in here and sit on top of that metal bit, and that should hold it pretty firmly. The other thing I've done is, rather than cut them to a narrow point and put them through this grommet, I've ditched this and I've glued 2 strips of rubber 3mm thick across the end. So when that sits in there, this part will be sandwiched between the 2 bits of rubber. So all that remains really is to feed this out to the contacts. Okay, I've managed to solder that on. In doing so, I started to melt the plastic on this. It obviously has a fairly low melting point. It melted very easily. So, yep, that's one thing I should have been more careful with, but I don't think it'll stop it from working. So let's put it together and see how we go with it. Now the needle goes down through that hole. That's sitting on its rubber block. It comes out in the right place, and this goes on top with this rubber piece pressed against there. That should hold it firmly enough, I hope. Let's see if I can press this down onto the melted plastic gadget. Yeah, there we go. That's going to be all right, I think. Yeah, that's pulling it in okay. Okay, well, I've got the cartridge mounted in here, and that's down, so it should just go straight on. No, wrong. That has to be up. Well, we have some sound, but not a lot.
Stars shining bright above you.
It doesn't sound too bad as far as sound quality is concerned, but that's full volume. I've probably done my copyright on this anyway, but well, it plays, but the output really isn't anywhere near enough. So if I used this, I would have to run it through a preamp. So we're back where we started from, I guess, except that I have the original cartridge in it. Okay, well, at least I have got the original cartridge running in it. So I've decided to knock up this little preamp board, and this runs a TL071 op amp. It's a high impedance field effect transistor type op amp, and this board was specifically designed to use a piezo input, so it's looking for a very high impedance input and a fairly high impedance output by the looks of the way it's set up. I just copied the schematic that someone sent me. I'll put it up on the screen for you. Pretty simple, straightforward, and I wired this up last night just using a bit of Vera board. It's a bit of a messy job, but hey, I'm not used to this stuff, and hopefully it'll work. I've checked it through. I think everything's alright. So let's hook it up to the radiogram and see what happens. Well, there we go. I was trying to find a way of testing it. I thought of hooking it up to the power supply and hooking a cable up to the cartridge and whatever. In the end, I decided the easiest way to test it was to wire it up into the radiogram. So that's what I've done. Here's the output from the little preamp board going into the Bluetooth board, where it goes through the relay to turn it on when the turntable starts. These wires run to the relay. They carry 5 volts, which I'm stealing from Manuel's Bluetooth board, and the black and white wires here go to the voltage doubler circuit on the Bluetooth board, all of which runs off the 6.3 volt power supply through these wires here. So it's turning into a bit of a tangle of wires, but hopefully we'll get there. So now the difficult bit, I've got to install this in the radiogram before anything will work, and only then I'll find out if it's got to be pulled out again and fault found or diagnosed or whatever. So I'm not going to screw it into the cabinet yet. I'll have it hanging by its wires so I can look at it, but fingers crossed, it's only a simple circuit. Hopefully I haven't done anything wrong, and hopefully it will work. Well, here it is. I've got it just hanging by its wires, hooked up to the turntable on that side and the radio on that side. So there's nothing left really but to turn it on and see if it goes. So here we are, plugged in and warmed up. I put it on gram. That will be on Bluetooth, but once I put the turntable on, it will be on turntable. I've got nothing but hiss. Something not happening there. Alright, I should have known it wouldn't work. Okay, I've discovered the source of the hiss. I've got it on shortwave instead of gram. So let's just try again with the switch on gram, shall we? That's broadcast. This should be pickup. I'll turn the volume up a bit because I'm not hopeful that it'll be an enormous output, but let's just see if we get anything. We do.
Night breezes seem to whisper.
I can't play too much of that, of course. That is still full volume, but I've got a gain control on this and I've only got it turned halfway up, so I'll play with that and see how much volume we can get out of it.
I linger on dear.
Well, there we go. I mean, the volume's, I guess, adequate for playing a record, but that still is full volume. I can probably play with that amp, play with the feedback resistor and see if I can get a bit more gain out of it, because I'm sure we can get more than that out of it. Okay, well, I've been messing with this preamp for some time now. Just to recap on part 2, where I set this up, this little signal relay here is operated by a larger relay off the motor board of the turntable, so that when you put on a record, it switches out Bluetooth and switches to the phono input. So you don't have to have a separate switch for Bluetooth. All you do is put on a record and it cuts out. Now, I hooked this up initially using or pinching the supply from the voltage doubler section of Manuel's circuit here. I had hum problems. There's some sort of an earthing issue going on there and I wasn't able to sort it out. So I've taken that off for the moment and I'm temporarily running off my power supply. I will sort that out one way or another. But the other issue is that there wasn't really enough gain out of this as the circuit was, and this circuit has a 220k feedback resistor from the output to the inverting input, and that's how you control the gain. There's also a pot on the output, and that obviously controls the gain, the output to some extent, but it didn't give enough. Even up full, there wasn't enough gain. I've been fiddling with these resistors and making incremental improvements. What I've decided to do now is I put a 1 meg pot in there and I'm just going to turn it up to the point where we get about the right amount of gain, and then I will, I suppose, put in a fixed resistor of that value and we can use the output pot to regulate it. So here we go. Then I'm going to have to probably make up a linear power supply for it. This voltage doubler thing is just not working for me at the moment. But we'll tackle this issue first, get the thing running properly, and then I'll worry about the power supply. The annoying thing is that every time I make a change to this I have to reinstall it in the radiogram, see how it goes, and then uninstall it again, which is, you know, lying on the floor under the radiogram, which is an absolute pain. But making progress, so I'm not going to give up yet. Okay, so first switch the radiogram on and I'll let that warm up, and just for convenience I've just set the record to continual play, so that'll just go over and over again. That means I can muck around with the amplifier and I've got a signal going into it that I can judge by. So now switching on the power to the preamp. So now I'll just turn up this pot. Okay, so that's up full, so that's a 1 meg pot. It's at half volume. Let's see how it goes when I turn it up. Well, that's not bad, but I think we still need a little bit more. So that's 1 meg, plus I've got a couple of 330k resistors in there that I was messing with. So I probably need, I'll put another meg in there and turn this one down and we'll just go up from there. Okay, I've tacked another 1 meg resistor in there. We've got it all running, hitting the power to the preamp. Why aren't we getting anything? Yeah, I think that's good enough. I'll leave it at that. That's probably about 2 meg will do the trick. I tried it borrowing the voltage from the Bluetooth board again, but it doesn't work. I can't get around the hum issues, so I've decided to knock up a little power supply for it. I don't think I'll need that, but I've got myself a bridge rectifier, a couple of caps and an LM7809 regulator, and I'm just going to throw something together on this board. Got this little transformer which I bought at the local electronics shop, JCar. I think it costs $6 something. So I'll throw that together and hopefully that'll do the job for it. That's a 7809 in, out and ground. Second cap. I just used a couple of 100 UFs. I don't know if that should do the trick. I'll see how it goes. Now I just run some wires between these things. So this is the ground line, this is the plus line, goes into the regulator, comes out there. Couple of caps. I wonder if I should put maybe a .001 or something across the output just to get rid of any harmonics or noise or anything. Don't know, I'll try it. No harm anyway. May not be necessary, but we'll see. So I'm using a piece of board that I had left over from the preamp. So it's the other half of that, and I can still mount the transformer on it, so that's handy. Here we go. One of Carl's finest .001s, and that can go in there. I have to put him up on end because there's no room for to put it sideways. I'll just make sure I'm on the right track though on the other side. Yep, so that'll go back to ground. It will go to the plus. Yep, that's fine. Alright, let's plug it in and see if we get 12 volts out of it. Oh, sorry, 9 volts. So what do we got? DC volts. 8.95, nearly 9. That's not bad. Nothing getting hot, it'll run on that anyway. I wonder how much ripple we've got on that. .005 volts AC it's measuring. Alright, let's just hook it up and see what happens. Now I haven't got anywhere to mount this yet, so it's just going to sit on the floor for now. And I'll hook the wires up because of course I really don't know if this is going to work or not. I will at least solder them. I don't want them going anywhere. So if this should happen to work, I'll attach it to the side of the cabinet and hook it up to the connector block where the mains power splits off to the turntable and the amplifier. But for now I've just got it hooked up to this plug. So first up, I guess, make sure nothing's touching. I'll get the radiogram on and warmed up. Okay, the power's on. Let's turn it up and it doesn't sound too bad to me. Of course I'm going to get in trouble with copyright for this if I'm not very careful, so I can't play it for too long. But that's sounding pretty good to me. I guess the next thing is to tidy this mess up, mount it properly in the cabinet, and I guess we're pretty much done. Well, here we are, all pretty much tidied up. I've got the power supply for the preamp over there, and moving back here we've got the Bluetooth board and preamp up there next to the chassis. And the only thing I might do later on is take that speaker out and clean it up a bit. It's a pity to have it looking like that. It's a really nice speaker. But other than that, hopefully we're done. Okay, so the final test, and for this I might even put in a new needle. I've got a packet of them here. Okay, so we turn that upside down. There we go. And turn it back over. Get rid of that one. And put a record on. Okay, so we should have radio going. Yep.
And this Clostridium difficile, which is a toxic bacteria, can overload the colon.
That's fine. We should have some shortwave going too this time of night. Okay, and back to broadcast. And here we should have Bluetooth. Can't play too much of that because it might be music, and the same with this, but the way it works, play a record, the Bluetooth cuts out and the record plays. Bit of Billie Holiday, and I probably can't play too much of this either, but I've probably already done my copyright for the day. We'll eject that, and we'll be back to Bluetooth. So there we go. Well, there we go. All working with the original pickup, using the original steel needles, and gee, it sounds good. That thing brings 78s to life. So yeah, it's been a bit of an experimentation one, this one, but we got there in the end, even if I did have to run it through a preamp. But I guess that's to be expected. You're not going to get the same output as you did from the original crystal from these cartridges, but the output you do get is good quality. And the Bluetooth's working, everything's working at last. So I hope you've enjoyed this. It's been a bit of a journey, this radiogram. Hopefully I'll be back with something easier fairly soon. So thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Bye for now.